Hi, I'm Joe Eaton of No Repeats Fiberworks. I have been crocheting forever. Actually, I'm recognized as a traditional artist, and I started crocheting when I was 7 years old, learning from my mother and from my Aunt Jeanette. So we are one of those old northern families which has always been doing the traditional arts of knitting, crocheting, quilting, and gardening and putting your food up for the winter. But today I'm here at a craft show, and we have a few moments to take you on a tour of my designer hats and some of my, what I call, winter flowers buttons. So first of all, we're going to visit some of the designer hats. This is purely one of the designer hats. I call the things on the side an uplift. This is an uplift, and it's meant to be worn near the eye so that it brings attention to the eyes, because it makes people smile and it makes them happy to have something that gives people something to focus on. So a little bit of detailing on the trim, and then right here we have the uplift. Okay, so the brims on these hats can take different shapes. Pull them down, and they will. I didn't design it to be this way. This is one of the characteristics of the hats that evolved as I was making them. So each of my hats are made out of multiple strands of yarn, and somehow that process gives the yarn the structure to hold these different shapes. So whether or not you just pull part of it down, pull it into a little shape like this, it will stay where you put it. So this is a regular designer hat with an uplift. This is more of a little snuggly watch cap, and it has on one of my winter flower buttons. Right down over the ears and nice and warm. This is an acrylic which is blended with a very fine mohair boucle. It's a shaded acrylic yarn and then a consistent color in the mohair boucle. This is the same combination of yarns as the last hat, but it's got a couple funny twists. So bear with me while I put this on. So this has an uplift that goes all the way around. Actually, I just kept going and going, and sometimes the yarn takes on a life of its own and wants to take a particular shape. I didn't make up this hat. This hat evolved. And then what happened is, whoops, I want it back here more to the side. I have been adding vintage buttons to many of my hats. So this hat has a whole series of vintage buttons. And they're just delightful. They look and have a different feel than the buttons that we get nowadays. So this hat also can take on a very piratey atmosphere. So anyway, another hat with the acrylic yarn blended with the mohair boucle. This hat is mohair and purple wool. And then I have added a bit of fun fiber yarns to the uplift. And again, as with the other hat, this will take different shapes so you can tailor it for your styling. And here's the uplift. Very, very warm hat with the mohair and wool. And then, when it's cold, you can actually pull these hats. This is when we move past wanting to be flattering and simply want to be warm, so that you can pull the hats right down. But generally, they have a tighter band around the top right here so that you can wear them up and a little bit fancy, and then for the cold weather, you pull them down. Again, the uplift with just vintage buttons.
I thought I would show you just in case it would be someone.
Trying to be sure that you get to see them. Now, here we go for something which is very different. This is vintage Downton Abbey hat. My friend Susie with Stevenson Fiber Arts made this wool. Can you see the detailing on the wool? And it's very, very finely spun for the gray, which is a natural colored sheep. And then the pink is sort of a cream colored fleece that she overdyed with beach roses. So I made a series of 6 Downton Abbey hats. This is the last one, and it's part of the Upstairs hat series. I like to make series things in hats. So this hat gives you a period look of the old English countryside, which I think is just particularly enjoyable. A little skull cap with a big sunflower. Did that work? This is another one of my winter flowers, and this is a hand-painted merino wool with a fine variegated mohair boucle. And here we go again. The hats can be pulled into different shapes. One like this. And here is the uplift with one of my flowers of winter. This one, I'm just going to come in so that you can see the really fun uplift with the vintage button. Now what I'm going to do is, this is a newsboy. I'm not going to put this on. Newsboy with one of the flowers of winter. Now I'm going to turn this newsboy around, and I'm going to show you some of my flowers. I love working with these fancy yarns. How's this? So this is a little pin. You can wear it on your hat, put it on your coat, your vest, your sweater, scarf, whatever, and even on your curtains. Here comes a delightful rose. I'm trying to get the right handle on it. How's that? Isn't that great? And sometimes we just need a little bit of sparkle.
It's fun.
So this one, it's just got a little bit of sparkle. And this is the end of this yarn, but I hope to, this fabric, but I hope to find more. I love this little rainbow. Isn't this just fun? Can accessorize so many different things. Sometimes you just have a few beads, or maybe even a lot of beads. And in that world of vintage buttons, sometimes a backing has to be made to show off a particular button. I've got 30 quarts of vintage buttons, and I'm going to be making these pins. I had an opportunity to get them from an antiques dealer in Dover Foxcroft, and so I'm going to continue on with button pins. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate your taking the time to watch the video. From Joe Eaton of No Repeats Fiberworks.